Good Friday morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to yet another weekly Friday edition of the Alan Fitz podcast, also known as The Chat. My name is Alan Fitz. I am the host for the show, and welcome into the program. And as always, our three main listening audiences that tune into the podcast on a weekly basis. Of course, you have those that agree with what we say, and they pass along to others on social media sites and by word of mouth. You also have those that don't quite agree with everything that we say. However, they do leave constructive criticism. And of course, last but not least, the haters, and we don't pay any attention to them because, well, folks, there's nothing they can do anyway. We took a week off from the podcast last week, and this week we've got a pretty good show for you. We're going to be talking about there's some tempers on the rise in a very small community up here in the Texas Panhandle, and we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm also going to talk very briefly. We have reached another year anniversary here in the Texas Panhandle, and we're also going to be talking about daylight savings time. Yes, it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen, once again to start playing with the clocks, losing sleep over this. But let's get on right here onto our main topic, and we are coming to you live from our studios here in Amarillo, Texas on this, and we're going to be talking about what exactly is going on that's making some tempers flare in a very small area here of the Texas Panhandle. For those of you that may not know it, the Texas Panhandle right now is home to two major AI plants being built. The first one has already actually has been under construction now for about 9 months. It's the plant down in Armstrong County, south of Claude, Texas. This is part of the Google AI installation, and we have another plant that is being built just in the northeastern section of Gray County, which is just outside of Pampa, Texas. And this is where our topic subject is coming from on the chat today. We've been hearing about tempers being on the rise due to an excessive amount of traffic that is being diverted out of this plant. Currently, the Google plant there, just outside of Pampa, they're running a lot of dirt loads right now, road base and things like that. A lot of belly dumps are being used to do this, but Google, and everybody knows who Google is. Google apparently, just from my professional standpoint, I don't think Google's got its crap together, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you why. We started listening in to some people here in Amarillo who was talking about they come here to shop often, and we were kind of standing in line behind some folks, and some of these people lived up around in the Pampa area, and they started talking about that it's getting kind of crazy up there with all of the semi-trucks coming in and out, dropping dirt, sand, road base, things of that nature, and it's just become absolutely chaotic in this portion, rural portion of Gray County, where a lot of folks, we got a lot of farmers up in that area, and people that work the land. And we started asking some questions about this. Especially we heard them talking about, I'm getting hacked off about this. My neighbor's getting hacked off. People in the next county are getting hacked off. And we're going to get into a little bit more about the next county over if you've been reading the topic on our YouTube channel. It was talking about tempers flare in one county and is carrying over to the other. We're going to get more involved in that in the show here in a little while, but we had been hearing about this for about the last 3 weeks, and it seemed like that it wasn't settling down by any means, and it only seems like the tensions and tempers are growing over in this rural area of Gray County. So we began investigating, folks, exactly where this was coming from. And we took a trip up to Pampa. We began knocking on some doors, showing our press credentials. Some people would talk to us. Some people did not want to get involved, which, that's normal anywhere you go. You can't, you got to let that roll off your shoulder, the ones that won't talk to you. But the ones that did talk to us began giving us information that they actually wanted somebody to listen to them that had some type of publication broadcasting capabilities, and to see if some of this would quail down. And folks, and that's one of the reasons that we did not do the chat last week. We have had to go through some exhaustive investigative techniques to find out what's going on here. And I'm just going to break it down to you exactly what is happening, and it's causing all these tensions to rise with some of these rural, remote people that live up here in these small communities. Now, don't get me wrong, Pampa is a good-sized town, but we're talking about people that live up in the rural area of Gray County. It's quiet and quaint, if you will. Apparently what's happening is the Google plant is being built there. There is a lot of heavy construction equipment running up and down County Road B in Gray County. There are hundreds, and I do stress this with an emphasis, folks. There are hundreds of belly dump truck drivers up in that area carrying road base. They're carrying sand. They're carrying caliche and rock and materials such as that to help speed up the foundation of the process of this Google AI facility that is being built in rural, remote Gray County. And where a lot of this is stemming from, and folks, as I go along with this, just a word of warning, it's going to get worse as the podcast continues with this subject. But apparently, and we were not able, at the time that this podcast is being recorded, we were not able to actually reach out to a human voice with Google. Some of the foremen out at the plant gave us several telephone numbers to reach out to Google, only to find out that these are basically automated recordings to leave messages. And we all know that an answering machine doesn't talk back to you, and 99% of the time you're not going to get any calls back. But we were only able to reach robotic voices with this. We went out to the area where the Google AI facility is being built. We pulled our press credentials. We asked them if we could take some pictures of some of the beginning work that was taking place. They told us they did not have a problem with that. They did caution us. They didn't want us to interfere with anything, to get in the way, to try to talk to anybody while we were on the grounds. A very secured area, I might add. to the Google AI plant. So we pulled our press credentials. We got permission to go in there. And we were in there roughly about 20 minutes. We're going to post some pictures that were taken. We cannot and will not give credit to where these photos came from. This is to protect the photographer at hand that took the pictures. We're going to get those posted on our the Alan Fitz Podcasting Facebook page. Over the weekend, we'll get those pictures up to you. There's really not that much to look at, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it used to look like when it's finally built. We were able to make those photos, get out of that facility, and we noticed that they had one of these electronic portable billboard signs, if you will. It said truck route, and the arrow pointed to the right. So we had some extra time one of the days that we went down into this area of Gray County, and we were able, there were some truck drivers that were pulled over on the side of the road, roughly about a quarter mile down County Road B. One of the trucks, he was experiencing some kind of mechanical issue, and two more of his buddy drivers pulled over to assist him, and it didn't seem like it was the right timing to do it, but we got lucky. They were willing to talk with us, and basically what it broke down to, ladies and gentlemen, is that the truck drivers were, and we're talking about the belly dumps, they were very, very upset with Google. In other words, what we heard them tell us, and then we drove the route ourselves. And to break it down, if you want to look it up on Google Maps, you locate County Road B, which is off of U.S. Highway 60, just outside of Pampa. This is the highway that goes over to Miami and Canadian. And what was happening with this, the reason that some of these drivers were so infuriated with Google, is that they had set up a truck route that the drivers were having to drive all the way over to a farm to market road that goes into Miami, Texas, which is the seat of Roberts County. Very, very small community. And I believe these folks up here don't call it Miami, they call it Miami. Anyway, we took the liberty of listening to what these truck drivers had to say. And of course, we're not going to give out their names because, they need to be protected, because all they're doing is trying to do their job. And they don't need a bunch of hassle from a bunch of idiots that don't know anything that's going on. So we got through standing on the side of the road talking to them, and we proceeded to follow their instructions, to follow their direction, and see just how far out we had to drive to get back into Pampa. Now, some of these truck drivers were loading dirt from as far north as Perryton in a dirt pit up in that part of the state, up close to the Oklahoma line, and trucking this material in these belly dumps back into Gray County. So we followed their instruction, we followed their direction, and we got back in our vehicle, and we drove down a very dusty County Road B, and it came out to a T in the road ladies and gentlemen. Texas Farm Road 748. That's Texas Farm to Market Road 748. Where we were met by yet another electronic portable billboard. These are these signs that a lot of these contractors and construction companies rent out, like United Rentals, things like that. Free plug for you guys there. And they type in whatever they want the thing to flash up and say. And in this case, it said truck route. It had a big orange arrow pointing to the left. From this point, we turned left on a very densely populated farm to market road. Basically, there's nothing out there but windmill turbine towers for the wind energy projects. And you go roughly about a mile and a half, and you cross over into Roberts County. You proceed on about another 5 miles or so, and you come down two very downgraded steep hills, and you come into the little community of Pampa, again, which is the seat of Roberts County. From that point, you would turn left on U.S. Highway 60, and it's a 23-mile drive all the way back into Pampa. Now, where the truck drivers were really steamed up about this is Google would not allow them. In other words, when you came from Pampa on Highway 60, like you're going out to Pampa, you're going to go out roughly about 5 miles. You would make a right on this County Road B, as it's called, and you'd go down another 2 miles, and the Google AI plant's being constructed there on the right. What the truck drivers, and every truck driver that I spoke with, was really fumed up about, and there was some very derogatory language that we cannot and will not repeat that some of these truck drivers told us, is that they had to go all the way around into Pampa to come back into Pampa, because Google would not let them take a left out of the plant, which means they could have been back in Pampa on the loop within about 5, 6, 7 minutes, roughly. So they're having to drive all the way around to Pampa to come back into Pampa. A lot of them are taking a left at Pampa, going back into Pampa, which is about a 23-mile drive. A lot of them are taking a right at Pampa on Highway 60, and that's a 24-mile drive back into Canadian, and then it's an additional 45-mile drive to get to the dirt pit that they're loading at in Perryton. And, you know, myself being a professional truck driver, I can understand where these truck drivers are coming from. I can understand why they are upset. I can understand why they're using some of the language that they're using, because, you know, especially if a lot of those belly dump drivers are not paid hourly. They told us that a lot of them are paid by the load, and it just eats up more and more time for them to have to go all the way around because Google said no. Well, what basically has happened at this point, and we had to reach out to the Texas Department of Transportation in Pampa. Normally, and we've done this in the past, that's the Amarillo district, okay, folks? Jason Britch, who is the public information officer for the Amarillo district office, which oversees all 26 counties here in the Texas Panhandle, we did not reach out to him. In the past, we have reached out to him for information. Mr. Britch is not very accurate on some of the information that he releases, and you know, that itself can damage the media quickly. So since he's not that reliable, we did reach out to the Texas Department of Transportation. And of course, they told us, folks, what we expected them to tell them. They don't regulate anything on county roads. Well, then about another week went by, and we began hearing more and more about the tempers beginning to rise on this situation with the Google plant. And it had to go back down there, and what we did is we got back into an investigative state, and come to find out, we reran that route again. Because in the beginning, I was under the impression, well, maybe, they decided not to follow the truck route, and it was causing even more problems. And my intuition, actually, ladies and gentlemen, was correct on this. They were getting down to the end of County Road B and taking a right on an unapproved truck route. Now, let me explain something to you, for those of you that may not know this. Yes, Texas farm to market roads, trucks can travel on them. They're public roadways. But when trucking companies are under contract, they're under haul agreements, haul trucks. The Texas Department of Transportation designates the routes that these truck drivers can take, especially when they're loaded, because you got to remember, more weight tears up more roadways. Well, when we decided to go back up to Pampa to reinvestigate a little bit more before we decided to push this podcast out, we had gotten to the end of County Road B and noticed something very strange going on. There were a couple of the Texas Department of Transportation state vehicles down there. There was DPS units and the Gray County Sheriff's Office. The individual that I spoke with the Texas Department of Transportation, I had to give my word that he would remain anonymous on this. And anybody that listens to this podcast knows that when I tell you you've got a nominee, you've got it. I'm not, I won't say anything. I don't even know you. And I gave him my word that no, because that could have been his job, because he's not supposed to speak for the Texas Department of Transportation. That's supposed to go through, Britch in Amarillo, which we don't trust anything Jason Britch has to say. So he told us that it had gotten to the point that the truck drivers were coming down at the end of that county road, and they were taking a right on 748, which led, and we went down that way to find out where that road came out. And that road actually came out on Texas Highway 152, which is the road that goes to Wheeler, over in Wheeler County on the east side of the Texas Panhandle. And we took 152, and it was even further to take it back to the loop in Pampa, which is Loop 171. He told us that it had gotten to the point that the truck drivers were tearing up the road, that they had repeatedly asked the contractors and the employers of the truck drivers to stop going this route. People lived down on the other side of this road. They were complaining about jake brakes, which, folks, if you don't know what that is, that's an engine brake. It's an engine retarder that is used on an 18-wheeler to slow it down. A lot of you, it sounds something like this. I've got one on my truck. And a lot of the truck drivers, we heard it ourselves. A lot of the baffles are busted out of the stacks. And it's very, very nerve-wracking to hear all of that noise. It scares people, although truck drivers that have them, they love it, okay? Anyway, it had gotten to the point that that some of the community people that live out in that part of the country had gone down, and he told us, the TxDOT worker told us, that they had come down personally to the Texas Department of Transportation office, which is there on Loop 171 there in Pampa, and started making all these complaints. These people had also had gone to one of the county commissioners of Gray County. We're not going to say who that commissioner was. He began, if you will, getting red-assed, and they basically had to get the DPS involved in it to get it stopped. Now the trucking companies are following by what we've been told. They are following the correct route now, but the tempers are beginning to flare over in neighboring Roberts County, over in Miami, due to the citizens over in this community complaining about the truck traffic. Now, folks, let me explain something to you to alleviate any confusion that you have in your mind at this point. A farm road anywhere in Texas is maintained by state tax dollars. Okay, this is strictly the Texas Department of Transportation. It's property tax money and state funding that takes care of this. There's a little bit of a difference when it comes to a U.S. highway. Now, to break it down in layman's terms, a U.S. highway is a federally mandated highway. Truck traffic is allowed to go through there. Now, there's one exception to that rule, and I'll get to that in just a second. But in the community of Miami, Roberts County seat, it's different than it would be going through a town with a business route, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But U.S. Highway 60, and it runs again, it actually starts here in Amarillo and goes beyond, but it runs up through Panhandle, which is the seat of Carson County. You go through the little small community of White Deer, and then you eventually will come into Gray County and hit Pampa. All right, U.S. Highway 60 is a federally mandated highway. Any U.S. highway in the United States is federally mandated. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that federal tax dollars pay for the roadway. The Texas Department of Transportation maintains the roadway, but they receive money federally from the government to pay for the materials and the paint striping and everything that goes on these highways. Because over-the-road truck drivers have two stickers on their truck, which is known as IFTA. It is the International Free Trade Agreement. Also, tax dollars are provided from that to pay for the roadway. It's the tax money, the fuel, diesel surcharges, the DEF fluid, and all of that, taxes from that money are also added in to the monies of the federal government to pay for those roadways. So therefore, semi-trucks, dump trucks, belly dumps, reefer units, RGNs, removable goosenecks, they are all allowed to legally travel on those highways. Now, the only exception to that rule is, let's say, for an example, there was an alternative US 60 that ran through Miami. At that point, the city ordinance could be passed to no through trucks. They have to get over on the loop. Unfortunately, there is no loop in Miami. I mean, Miami, like we used to call it in East Texas, it's a hole in the road. You blink your eye, you done went through it. Okay, there's not much in Miami. There's the Roberts County Courthouse, beautiful red top courthouse. You have a little bitty post office. You have a convenience store. You have the Roberts County Sheriff's Office, which is about the size of a standard motel room. and you have a flashing light and a railroad track, and that's it. And that's Miami, Texas for you. What we had learned is that Roberts County Sheriff Bruce Skidmore began having issues with trucks and a large surplus of truck traffic going through his county seat. And you know, Miami is a very quiet and quaint little town. Very, very quiet, very clean community. And, you know, it's under 600 population. I mean, everybody knows everybody there. And so folks that live in Miami, and it is the only town in Roberts County, they're not used to such as that. And I understand that. And I'm sure all the listeners out there that are listening in Miami can understand that. Yeah, you folks are not used to hearing all that racket and all that commotion and all that truck traffic coming through your town. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. Again, that is federally mandated highway. We attempted to reach Roberts County Sheriff Bruce Skidmore for comment. He was out of the office. We tried 2 additional times, 3 total, and he was out somewhere dealing with the truck traffic. My understanding was that DPS state troopers had to come in and inform him. There's very little you can do, if nothing. I mean, this is federally mandated. The DOT came in, and everything pretty well quailed down until we found out there was an incident last week, actually, where a truck driver. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. We got very, very little information on this. I don't know if this was accidental. I don't know if it was literally a hacked-off truck driver mad because he had to drive all the way around. But somebody somewhere, and we found this out, and the Roberts County Sheriff's Office there in Miami had very, very little information on this. That some truck driver was apparently going back toward Pampa and got up very close to the Roberts-Gray County line and dumped what appeared to be road base out in the middle of the highway. I did witness the cleanup. There were sweepers, there were road graders that were getting the material off of the roadway. Did not even think about stopping and taking a picture of it. By the time we could have got stopped, there wouldn't have been anything to look at. We did, however, notice that there was, and we don't know if this was Sheriff Bruce Skidmore himself or if it was one of his deputies in Roberts County, but they had an individual pulled over. It appeared to be 2 Hispanic males, and whoever this law enforcement officer was pretty well heavily shaking his finger at him. There was no truck anywhere nearby. I'm assuming that this was either a foreman from either the Google plant themselves, or it could be a representative of the trucking company, whoever dumped the load. We really and truly don't know. We got very little information from the Roberts County Sheriff's Office in Miami. They did inform us that they are continuing to investigate because, folks, I will tell you this, that's a felony to do that, to drop out material like that, you know, and you're operating a commercial motor vehicle and you're convicted of something like that, you would lose your CDL for life. Thank goodness Roberts County SO did inform us that nobody got hurt. And what a lot of people don't understand is whoever this driver was apparently does not have any concern for life or limb, because there could have been a family of 4 behind this dump, and somebody could have been killed. And then, of course, if the truck driver would have ever been caught, they'd have been looking at manslaughter charges. But that's an unfortunate situation. Once this happened, then one of the truck drivers that we talked to originally down in the rural area of Gray County. We did give him our cell phone contact. He did inform us that the day after this happened, that DOT enforcement became a heavy presence. They do have a scale house right there at the corner of Highway 60 and 152, the Wheeler cutoff. And he said a lot of truck drivers in the immediate vicinity have been busted. A lot of citations have been written, and that's all the information he could give me. And it basically stems the moral of this story, and I can understand why there's a lot of tempers rising with this, especially you folks up there in Miami. This is a result, as we used to call it back in East Texas, that one bad apple can spoil the whole bushel basket. And I know you farmers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Apparently, it took one bad truck driver to start turning up the heat on everybody else and to get some kind of compliance. Okay? You know, turn wrong on a farm to market road, that is an unapproved truck route. Apparently, we assume this, ladies and gentlemen, he probably got a ticket, one of them high dollar tickets, if you will, from the DOT enforcement for driving on an unapproved truck route. And this very well may be the same driver that decided to dump that load of rock base out in the middle of Highway 60. We don't know that for a fact. That is our assumption, but I'm assuming that he probably got mad enough to do that. Again, we don't have anything confirmed. The only thing that we can confirm is the Roberts County Sheriff's Office in Miami told us that the investigation is continuing to find out who this individual was, and they would be prosecuted. The moral of this story is that it's always right to do the right thing. It's always an action that you commit will be a consequence for that action. If you're doing good actions, you're going to have good consequences. But folks, if you're doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing as a result of your action, there will be a bad consequence to follow. The only thing I can say about the folks that, and what little folk live out that way in remote Gray County, and the good folks in the quiet, quaint town of Miami, there in Roberts County. Yes, it is a headache, but eventually, you've got to go back. This day shall pass, and each day shall pass. You will have, hopefully, your quiet evenings, and eventually that Google AI plant will be built, and all the truck traffic will stop, and especially when they get through hauling all that material in there, that truck traffic will stop, and you'll be able to get back to your quiet, quaint little neighborhood. We feel for you, and just hang in there, folks. Don't go out and do something stupid. Don't let your tempers get you in trouble. I'm sure that they're working as quickly as possible to try to get built what they need built and divert that truck traffic somewhere else to another job site. So, again, we feel for you in the town of Miami, and hopefully very soon that all will be over with. Okay, I want to move on to quick subject number 2, and then we'll move on to quick subject number 3 before we end the podcast for today. I want to be one of the first ones out there to go back a little bit in time and talk to you folks about when you feel like a change in your life is needed, to not be afraid to take that change, because you could be rewarded gratefully, if that's the right word to use. This past Sunday, and looking back on the calendar, that was on March the 1st. It all happened 3 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. On March the 1st of 2023, my, partner back then, wife now, decided to leave the small East Texas town that we were born and reared in. 3 years ago, this past Sunday, we came to the capital city of the Texas Panhandle, right here in Amarillo. And folks, it was a move that created a lot of uncertainty. I had driven through Amarillo a few times, never really stopped here. And during some of my travel days, I didn't really know anything about Amarillo. And to keep this a true story, we got to Amarillo at it was almost sundown on March the 1st of 2023. It was almost dusky dark, but it was just bright enough that you could see, but you had to turn your headlights on to be seen. And we found a hotel here. And we had a lot of uncertainty in our mind. We were loaded up with our stuff, and we said we had set out to start a new life. A life now that we wouldn't give up for anything. And I didn't even know where to go in Amarillo. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to learn this town. It's 200,000 plus population here. What am I going to do? And I talked to an individual, and they said the quickest way that you can learn Amarillo is to run for DoorDash. I'd heard of DoorDash, didn't know really what it was. Signed up for it, took about a week to get approved, and then I started learning this beautiful city that we live in. In 3 months' time, I no longer had to use a GPS to find anything. I learned the city. And actually, Amarillo is 2 cities into one. A lot of people don't know that. You have Amarillo Boulevard, which was the original Route 66 before Interstate 40 was built back in the 1960s. The boulevard, if you travel it today, that was the original Amarillo. When as Interstate 40 was built, businesses, housing, development began, and the city grew and grew and grew, and it continues to grow to this day, ladies and gentlemen. But again, in 3 months, I had learned the city of Amarillo, and to this date, I still don't need a GPS to get around. You fire off the name of a business, you bet you I can tell you where it's at. But that uncertainty 3 years ago, folks, was downright scary. We had the uncertainty, are we really going to make it up here? Yeah, we came up here with money. We had money. We still have money. But, you know, you go to a strange place and you don't know which direction to go to. And I guess learning the city of Amarillo gave me a absence, if that's the right word to use, the absence of uncertainty. As most of you know, my wife does have a medical condition, and Beaumont was actually the closest place that we could go for her medical care, and they really did not provide care. I can't say that about Northwest Texas Hospital. I can't say that about BSA, which is Baptist St. Anthony, the Catholic hospital here. She has wonderful doctors here. These people, these medical professionals here in Amarillo are top-notch here in Texas, in my opinion. When she has the medical episode that she has, and it's very, very rare that she has these anymore because we got away from East Texas, which has a lot of pollen. We got away from the hurricanes, but we found the tornadoes, trust me. Her condition improved drastically, folks. I mean, drastically improved. She still has the problem that she was born with, and she receives top-notch treatment when the time comes that she has to be hospitalized. And again, it's very, very rare like it used to be. Amarillo is, and I didn't know this before we moved up here from East Texas, but Amarillo has everything an individual could ever want or need in life. It's not like where we come from. You need a new bed, you need a hot water heater, you want to build a shed, they don't have any materials in this town, you got to drive all the way to Beaumont. You don't have to do that here in Amarillo. It's 12 miles across, and basically wherever you live, you can drive 10 minutes or less, and you can be at a place where you can get what you need or what you want. No more traveling to Beaumont. This is one big city that has everything, ladies and gentlemen. And I can honestly say that this past Sunday, I look back and I reflect. Look at us now. She receives top-notch medical treatment. I'm back into professional truck driving, and incidentally, for those out there that may want to check on that, good luck with that, because that's in the federal CDL clearinghouse, and the general public doesn't have access to it. It's also protected information. We have reached a new milestone here in Amarillo, Texas. It took a couple of years to get used to the flat land up here. You never get used to the dust storms. You're pretty much accustomed to the wind, which really never ever stops blowing. It took a couple of years to start. Every time you drive out of town, the land's flatter than a piece of plywood. The windmill towers are everywhere. The tumbleweeds are everywhere. It was strange for the first couple of years, but now it's home. And it is the best decision. I wish I'd have made this decision years and years and years ago to come here. The small East Texas community that I am from, unfortunately, there is no future there. There will never be a future there because of some of the people that live there. But that's their problem, ladies and gentlemen. We made the decision to take it and run with it, and we reaped what we sowed. We are living where we want to be. Amarillo is a great city. It has great people. Again, I've talked about this on prior editions of the podcast. People here don't know how to drive, but it is what it is. they have social media pages set up for that, license plates and all that stuff. Just check into it. But I can honestly say that 3 years later, I did not make a mistake. We did not make a mistake. We're much better off. We don't have to look or deal with what we dealt with for years back on the east side of the state. Never have to worry about seeing any of those people again or ever dealing with their childish activity. We've bettered ourselves. So where I'm going with this, ladies and gentlemen, is this. It's never too late in life to make a change. You ever get that old inkling or hunkering that I want to better myself? I want to go somewhere where nobody knows me. I want to start over, and I want to be the best I can be. Folks, don't hold back. Go for it. Just make sure financially you're ready to deal with it if it doesn't come true. We got lucky. We got very, very lucky. And we have made it. And we are doing very, very well. The past is in the past, and it can stay there because it will never hold a future. The third and final thing I want to talk about on the podcast is it is time once again to play with your clocks. Yes, daylight savings time begins this Sunday, 2 days from today, at officially 2 a.m. And what they recommend folks doing is to, before you retire to bed for the evening, is to go ahead and set all your clocks up an hour, and because you'll be late to work if you don't. Okay, we're going to spring forward on Sunday. They also recommend changing, if your home is equipped not with electric smoke detectors but with the battery backup systems, is to replace those batteries and all your smoke detectors and also your carbon monoxide detectors. And if you're still one of those old timers out there that have the caller ID display box that's separate from your phone, go ahead and replace those batteries as well. Replacing batteries in your carbon monoxide and smoke detectors could save your life. Hope you never have to use it, and test it. Once you put those new batteries in there, push that test button. Make sure it starts making that loud beeping sound. Yes, this Sunday we will spring forward, which basically means you're going to lose an hour of sleep. What I do is I go to bed an hour earlier, so it kind of evens out for me. You're going to lose an hour of sleep, but you're going to begin having longer nights. So for those of you that kids out there that like to get out, maybe do soccer practice, Little League baseball practice, football practice, things of that nature, you'll have an extra hour of daylight as well. And as the months go on, the daylight will get longer and longer. I remember last year up here, we got dark at the peak of daylight savings time. We got dark right at 10 o'clock at night. So it allows you to conserve electricity in your home. You can turn those lights off. You can leave your blinds open. You still have light at the dinner table if you sit next to a window at your kitchen table, or you want to get outside and have extracurricular activities. That is what it is good for. And with all of that being said, that will wrap up this edition of the Alan Fitz Podcast, also known as The Chat. Again, those folks in Miami, Texas, right there at the county seat of Roberts County, Patience is a virtue, okay? Eventually that will end. Just be patient and take it one day at a time. And we'll be back next Friday with yet another edition of the chat. Keep watching the YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/@Alan Fitz Podcasting. Or you can look for additional information at alanfitz.com. And as always, until we meet again, my friends, next Friday here on the chat, this is Alan Fitz saying have a great weekend. Don't forget to set those clocks up an hour before you go to bed. Bye for now.